Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of going through the book Raising Up into the Higher Dimensions, channeled messages from the Pleiadian Council of Nine. So I feel so honored to have you here. Thank you for joining me. If you have your book, grab it. If you don't, then that's perfectly fine. I'll be reading out the whole message for you. So to begin, let's first just close down our eyes. Just tuning in, connecting to your heart space. And just inviting the Pleiadian Council of Nine to be with us. To perhaps give us more insights into these messages. And for us to feel their energy as we go through it. So this morning, during my morning practice, I was guided to the page that we're going to discuss today. And it's page 50, Rest and Receive. And when I turned to this page, I was like, yes. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, this January, I haven't done so much creating. It's been more just being, receiving, that really forming that foundation for the rest of the year rather than going in doing all this stuff. I just haven't felt that. I had a really nice Christmas and New Year's, and I've just been in sort of this state where, I'm just receiving. I've been feeling so much bliss and love. So for me, it's been very much just allowing these activations to happen. I've been hearing a lot of light language coming through. I've been getting these activations, feeling light turn on in my body, and it's just been so beautiful. And really receiving what I'm here to bring through this year. So it's really been what this title of this message is, Rest and Receive, a lot about that. Really integrating these energies and bringing in this wisdom, not only for myself, but for the collective and the earth, and forming a strong foundation moving forward for the rest of the year. And I know when I do get the inspiration to start creating, then I will be doing so. For me, last year I created so much. I released programs, I published 2 books and a journal. Like, I was really in that flow state. And being in that flow state is really key to be productive, because it just feels effortless. So I'm going to read through the message on page 50. Raising up into the high dimensions does not only enable you to feel more love, peace, and harmony in your life, but it also makes it easier for you to communicate clearly with beings in the higher realms. Your intuition and subtle senses will be more fine-tuned to receive what they are offering to you via energy, codes, information, frequency, as you'll be a closer match and more resonant in your own frequency. It is important to understand that no matter who you are, you have the ability to do this. Nobody is exempt from being able to receive from Source, as you are all Source energy beings. However, the more you hold in density, trauma, low vibrations, and close off your heart, the harder it will be. We ask that you all have compassion for yourselves, as raising up into the higher dimensions is not always an easy task, as there is a lot that needs to be released and purged beforehand. We ask you take this process with ease and grace. Allow emotions to flow, see the gifts and lessons for what they are, and maintain balance and harmony within your being as often as you can. We can't stress enough the importance of taking time to rest and to just be. This is not being lazy, this is being your own healer, and it is very productive beyond what the ego can understand. Give yourselves permission to do this, as you are the only ones who can. So let me know how you feel with that message, if you can relate to it at all. So I want to go back to that first sentence. Raising up into the high dimensions does not only enable you to feel more love, peace, and harmony in your life, but it also makes it easier for you to communicate clearly with beings in the higher realms. So, as I've said before, raising up into the higher dimensions is all about having an increased, you could say, a high vibration, a higher state of frequency, and a higher state of consciousness. So it's not about us going anywhere, for humanity at this stage anywhere. There will be a point where we will become more of our light bodies. We won't be such in physicality. But for us right now, we don't have to worry about that. So it's all about us really raising our vibration, expanding our consciousness. And so, then we can experience more love, peace, and harmony. Because in the lower dimensions, duality does exist. But as we move up into the higher dimensions, it doesn't. We don't have to be stuck in duality, stuck in separation, stuck in suffering. So this is really an invitation for you to know that you can experience more peace, love, and harmony in your life. It is possible to do so. And this is the ascension journey we're all on. Remembering who we truly are beyond just this physical body. Remembering our divinity. So it's really, how can we integrate our humanness and our divinity together to be these vessels of our higher self? How can we merge our human awareness with our higher self consciousness? And it's kind of a paradox because our humanness is divine, but it's just a way that I can explain that there are these different aspects of us. And how it says that it makes it easier for you to communicate clearly with being in the higher realms. Yes. One thing I always say, and that the Pleiadians have said, it's the heart portal. It's the space where we can go within and access so much. And it's remembering that the universe is inside of us. We, as humans, we like to put things in concepts for example, this is my spirit guide, this is their name, this is what they look like, and they're out here, instead of all these different beings all these different states of consciousness, everything part of source, can be accessed within you. And it can be a bit of a thing for our ego to understand, because we want to have all these labels, when really what is required for us to move into the high dimensions is to really move into that non-duality. Because as long as we're stuck in duality, we're remaining in the lower dimensions. You know, when we keep going back to those lower vibrations, we're in the lower dimensions. And know that we can oscillate between these many different dimensions, because, you know, we have so many thoughts, so many different emotions, beliefs, etc. on a daily basis, and so we can fluctuate. But what we want to do is really anchor ourselves onto a higher timeline, into a higher dimensional reality for us and for the collective of humanity. The more of us that go within ourselves and allow this processing and alchemy to occur, then we affect everything around us, as within, so without. And so when it says about communicate clearly with other beings, you know, that stillness and that high vibration, you're raising your frequency. It's more of a match to those beings that are in the higher dimensions. And so we kind of open ourselves up. You can think of, if we want to get our human to understand, you can think of yourself on earth and those that are consciously tuning in and wanting to connect and raising their frequency. Think of yourself shining up as like a light. And these other beings, they're seeing everyone and they see these lights turning on, and it's like, oh, they're ready to connect. They're holding a high frequency, and you really open yourself up to receive from them. If you want to think of it like that, if it helps. So the next sentence, your intuition and subtle senses will be more fine-tuned to receive what they are offering to you via codes, energy, information, frequency, as you will be a closer match and more resonant in your own frequency. So that's kind of what I was saying before, but also, you know, being open to receiving from spirit, from source, without being attached to what it should look like. I mean, a perfect example was, like, for me, I remember when I first started my journey, after my spiritual awakening, you know, I wasn't trying to connect, I was just hearing spirit. But then after a time where I was consciously tuning in meditation to connect with my star family, I wasn't receiving, you know, English words. I was receiving what sounded like this other language. And so it would be easy for me to just discount that, to disregard it, to say that, oh, I'm not receiving anything, but I was receiving so much. It just wasn't in the human language. It was light language. And I would also hear these different tones and frequencies, like these melodies, like it would sound like it was not from this earth. And so just know that don't become fixed or attached to what this communication may look like. For me, being very clairaudient and claircognizant, so clear hearing and knowing, that's for me the way I receive a lot of communication, and occasionally visuals and stuff like that. But for me, I had to let go of what some of the other channels or people I looked up to, how they were communicating or channeling or receiving, and I just had to honor the way it was coming through for me, how do I translate frequency, and really open up to however that was going to come through. So yeah, whether you just feel so much love, the energy, or whether you do receive light language and different codes, or information, yeah. And when you really remain in your own frequency, so your true soul's essence, your authentic self, so you're anchored in your heart, you know, because we all have our own unique soul blueprint. We all, as a soul, we've had many lifetimes, we have many qualities or certain essences that we are as part of the one source. And so it's really honoring that, and there can be a process which will go later on in this message about the processing, the alchemy, and peeling away all those layers that aren't you, because you know, this life isn't so much about becoming anyone, it's more embracing and accepting who you truly are already. So it's more of a peeling away everything that isn't you, all the conditioning and all of that stuff, and coming back to who you are. Okay. It is important to understand that no matter who you are, you have the ability to do this. Nobody is exempt from being able to receive from Source, as you are all Source energy beings. Yes, that's so important. This isn't for the select few who can connect with Source, connect with Spirit. This is for everyone. We are all Source energy beings, so we all can do this. Now, some of us may feel that we're very sensitive to energy, and that's beautiful, so you can really notice and take in this information more consciously. Some of us may feel like we've blocked some of this stuff out, like from childhood and stuff. I know I definitely did. Like, I remember as a child talking to Spirit, and like my granddad, and I remember it was just so overwhelming, because I would like feel all this energy, and I knew there were beings in my room and stuff, but you know, I'd call out to my mum or whatever, and you know, they just discount it. They're like, nothing's here. And so you become to not trust yourself. And there was also a time I remember I specifically told them to go away, to leave me alone. And so, of course, Spirit has to honor our free will. And so then, you know, I go through my life. And later on again, you know, back into 2016, it reactivated within me, and that was all part of my soul's journey, I think. It's just all part of, when we're in the lower dimensions, this third dimensional reality, we do feel separate. Separate from Source, from God, the divine, separate from other people. And so what's really healing is remembering that we are one. And so if you want to tune in and connect with Spirit and Source, then know that you absolutely have the ability to do so. It is important to understand that no matter who you are, you have the ability to do this. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is, however, the more you hold in density trauma, low vibrations, and close off your heart, the harder it will be. Yes. Yes. So that goes back to what I said before. When we raise our vibration, our frequency, then we are a bit more receptive to the higher dimensional beings that want to communicate with us. And so then I mentioned about the process of alchemy. So, you know, when we're holding in so much trauma, dense emotions, what is wanting to happen is that stuff is wanting to come up and be processed, to be alchemized into a higher state. And what can happen if we are holding in all this hurt, this anger, this blame, whatever it is, past hurt and past memories, and we're not willing to let it go, we can close down our heart. And, you know, if we're in that space and we're trying to communicate with spirit, it's going to be so hard because they're on like a different wavelength. And so most likely what could happen is they'll try to communicate with you when you're most receptive. So it could be as you're falling asleep is really a common one, because that's when you're sort of out of the pain, out of your mind, and you're in a space where you're falling asleep. So they can kind of slip in there. So really raising up into the higher dimensions, it does include this process of alchemy. Okay, so allowing yourself to process emotions that have been stuck because you've held it in from past events. You know, trauma isn't one sort of big massive event. Trauma can happen. What it is when you don't know how to process something that happened. Okay, it might not be a big deal to someone else, but for you, you didn't know how to deal with the situation. Some of us go into fight or flight or freeze. I know for me, what's happened in the past is I just go numb, I go silent. I felt myself sort of dissociate and start leaving my body because I don't know how to deal with something. And it may not get to that stage. You may just feel really hurt and stuff it down and not allow yourself to cry and express the emotion, because energy, emotion is emotion, and we're energetic beings, and you know, it's for us to allow this energy to move, not to stay stuck. So we want to be the alchemists of our energetic state. Ideally, when something happens, we want to be able to process it in the moment. But for many of us, we either don't feel safe in the moment to process that emotion. We may feel like it's not acceptable, it's not allowed, what will people think of me, you know. So it's really important for us, if we can't allow emotions to be processed in the moment, to when you later in the day or when you are in a safe space, then you can allow that to occur. Because what that happens when we release this trauma, this density within us, we can anchor in the higher vibrations. We can really activate parts of our DNA when we're vibrationally ready, whether that's gifts and abilities, memories, all kinds of things that are for us to assist us in our life. But first, that first step is to go through that process. And my book, Her Energetic Code, is all about this stuff. So if that's something you want to dive deeper into, then you can get that, because it's kind of the foundation for us to raise up into the higher dimensions, is to go through this process of alchemy. You know, we came in here to be humans, and to experience emotion, to experience life in physical form. So it's not bad to experience these things. It's for us. It's for our soul's expansion. We wanted this, and so it's to honor that and go through that process. You know, we didn't come here to feel high vibes all the time, because then what would be the point of this human experience? Okay. We ask that you all have compassion for yourselves, as raising up into the higher dimensions is not always an easy task, as there is a lot that needs to be released and purged beforehand. Yes, so again, during this process, compassion is really key, because sometimes it will feel like you're dying. There'll be these phases where you feel like you're letting go of so much, and that letting go sometimes can be like a good thing. Yes, letting go of this density, this trauma, but sometimes the letting go is letting go of the comfort, of the norm, of the familiar, and that can be really scary. So whether that's what's happening and we're going into the unknown, or whether we're allowing these feelings to be felt so they can be processed and alchemized, compassion is really key. So whenever you're doing this stuff, connect in with your heart, invite in spirit, invite in source, you know, create a nice space for yourself. And, you know, don't judge yourself, have compassion. I know this is happening for me, for my highest good. I know this process is needed. I know there's so much goodness coming up for me. I know that allowing this processing to occur, I know it needs to happen. I'm going to allow it, because ultimately what we resist persists. So if you can have the courage and the compassion to allow those things that arise, to allow them to be, accept and surrender to them, then you can move forward. Rather than feeling like you're always in the same situation, or you feel like you're going through the same cycles of the same thing, is coming to you, for you, to heal, to process, to learn. We ask you to take this process with ease and grace. Allow emotions to flow. See the gifts and lessons for what they are, and maintain balance and harmony within your being as often as you can. Yes. So when you allow them to flow, and you also can begin to expand your consciousness. So instead of coming from solely that human awareness that may feel like a victim in that moment, we can actually anchor in here, open up, and be like, yes, I see the gift here. I see that this or that or that or that, whatever the lesson is, you can see it from a higher perspective. So you're starting to include that higher self-consciousness, or that consciousness from source that sees the bigger picture here. And so it's to anchor into your heart, into that balanced place within you as often as you can. You know, you don't want to get caught up in healing or caught up in processing. You know, spend the time to do that, but then you don't stay. You don't want to stay in those low vibrations or those states. You want to come back to your sovereignty, to your heart, whether that feels like peace, whether it feels like joy or love. You just want to come back into balance within you. Okay, we can't stress enough the importance of taking time to rest and just be. This is not being lazy. This is being your own healer and is very productive beyond what the ego can understand. Give yourselves permission to do this, as you are the only one who can. Yes. So in this society, we're really taught to go, 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 hustle, and almost completely bypass perhaps what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, and we don't give ourselves permission to just be, I just was reminded of myself, like sometimes I'll just be lying on my rug here, just looking out the window at the sky during the day. I just give myself permission to just be, no matter what that looks like. And it's when we give ourselves permission to be that we can receive so much. Instead of doing, how can anything get through? And so it's really important to know that being is just important as doing. Do after you've been being and you've received the inspiration to act. Or if you are doing, be conscious. Be aware of what you're doing rather than just operating from that hamster wheel, that sleepwalking state. And yes, knowing it's not lazy to do so. In today's society, it's time to bring in more of the feminine qualities, that feminine essence of being, receiving, intuition, receptiveness, It's time. And you'll find that when you give yourself permission to do that, to just be, then you'll get into that flow state where you can be very, very productive, and it will feel effortless rather than feeling stressed and worn out and all of that stuff. Yes, give yourselves permission to do this, as you are the only ones who can. Spirit can be telling us, I could be telling you, other people can be telling us what to do, what's best for us, what is healthy for us, but ultimately we are the only ones who can make changes, make alterations, and listen to our heart. No one can do that for us. So we really have to be the one that recognizes what we value, what's important to us, giving yourself permission to rest and be and listen to your heart. Think about the world that you want to live in. Is it one of harmony, peace, love, joy, grace? Or is it the one that we have been living in, of stress, of hustling, of separation, of struggle and suffering? Your choice is ours. I can just start off with setting time aside for you each day, whether it's the morning, whether it's your commute on the train. You could set yourself a goal to just be, just to notice the beauty out the window, or to notice the people that you're sitting next to. Whatever it is, you go for a walk in nature. So that's the end of page 50. Rest and receive. Make the intention to do so this week. Let me know how you go, and how you found this message. Much love.